Welcome to the Deep Dive. Our mission, as always, is to cut through all the noise out there and give you the really important nuggets of knowledge from, well, a whole stack of fascinating sources.
Yeah.
Today, we're plunging into the pretty dynamic, high-stakes world of tech and business. We'll look at everything from the, frankly, intense fight for top AI talent all the way to the future of transportation, which is becoming very real now. Plus, how apps are getting central to our financial lives and even the kind of geopolitical chess match that's playing out over critical tech. So yeah, get ready for some surprising facts, some core insights, and hopefully a clearer understanding of what's really shaping our digital future.
Absolutely. The tech landscape, it's in constant motion, isn't it? New challenges, new opportunities, pretty much daily. So we'll try to synthesize the latest developments, connect the dots for you, and help you understand not just what's happening on the surface, but maybe more importantly, why it matters and what those deeper implications might be for, well, for you and the global economy.
Okay, let's unpack this first one. The absolutely wild race for AI talent. Just wow. We're hearing from Sam Altman himself that Meta is reportedly offering, get this, crazy $100 million signing bonuses to poach OpenAI staff. I mean, that's a figure we've genuinely never heard of before for one person in this field. And it really signals a level of, I don't know, desperation.
Yeah.
Or maybe strategic urgency that's just unprecedented.
It is. It's astronomical. But what's fascinating here, and maybe counterintuitive, is that even that kind of money, it's not always enough to lure the very best people. You look at OpenAI's mission statement, for instance, it's described as bold, large, and purposeful. They think about their work, and they say this explicitly, for the benefit of humanity. Their focus is on creating artificial general intelligence, AGI. And, AGI isn't just about smarter tools. It's this huge goal of creating AI that can understand, learn, apply knowledge across everything, basically performing at or maybe even beyond human levels. That's a really profound long-term vision.
Right, it's a big, almost philosophical goal.
Exactly. Now, compare that to Meta's mission. It's more like advancing AI for a more connected world to accelerate potential future Meta products for the benefit of people. Which is fine. It's beneficial, sure, but it's still very product-oriented, right? Less about that foundational intelligence for humanity as a whole.
Okay, so if the money isn't the only thing, maybe not even the main thing for some, what else is going on? Altman's argument, it goes beyond just the mission statement. He points directly to a, quote, culture problem at Meta. He suggests people want to go where they feel they can do their absolute best work, and his claim is that OpenAI has less internal bureaucracy. And Meta has even, publicly admitted to having some trouble with middle management layers, which is, well, a common thing, a huge corporation. So it implies this clash, maybe, between agility and corporate structure.
That really raises a key question, doesn't it? Can a company that's really focused on quarterly results for shareholders and mainly incorporating AI into its existing products, can it truly compete long-term with a startup that was literally founded on the principle of creating AGI? Meta's big push into superintelligence, it's relatively new ground for them. And while, yeah, they've successfully hired some significant talent from places like DeepMind and Scale AI, there's apparently been some friction within their own research teams. Because, in a massive company, researchers might feel their pure long-term scientific work takes a back seat to the next product launch.
Yeah, I can see that. Feeling intellectually stifled, maybe.
Exactly. That can happen. Top minds might prefer the sort of greenfield challenge of a mission-driven startup, even if it means giving up some financial certainty or, the absolute top bonus offer. It often comes down to the kind of problems they get to solve and the freedom they have to chase them.
Okay, so from the battle for AI brains, let's shift gears. Let's talk about the roads of the future. Amazon backed Zoox. They're making some really big moves in the robotaxi space. This field feels like it's been almost here for years. What's different now with Zoox?
Well, the big news is they're finally ready for their commercial launch. It's starting in Las Vegas later this year. Then they're planning San Francisco, Austin, and Miami to follow. And what really sets them apart, I think, is their vehicle. It's purpose-built. So built from the ground up purely for autonomous ride-hailing, not just adapting some existing car.
Okay. So what does that actually mean, purpose-built?
It means things like it can drive equally well in both directions. It has four-wheel steering, so it can make really tight turns. And inside, no steering wheel, no pedals. It's purely a passenger cabin. And it's designed for serial production right here in the U.S. with a target capacity of 10,000 vehicles a year eventually. They already have, I think, over a dozen just roaming the Las Vegas Strip right now, not just testing the tech, but really learning and refining the whole customer experience.
The whole experience, like
really precise pickup and drop-off points, making sure riders have, as they put it, a truly wonderful experience once they're inside, the whole journey.
Okay, so this purpose-built design, the 10,000 vehicle target, that sounds serious. But what about the regulations? That's always been the huge hurdle for autonomous vehicles, hasn't it? How are they tackling that?
It has, yeah, that's a major piece. So there are federal limits on deploying driverless vehicles on public roads, but Zoox went the route called self-certification.
Self-certification. What's that?
It means instead of waiting for the government to kind of pre-approve every single aspect, they've internally verified that their vehicle complies with all the existing federal motor vehicle safety standards. It's a mechanism that lets them deploy a bit faster, essentially taking responsibility themselves for meeting those standards. But crucially, they say they're still working really closely, hand in hand, with regulators for ongoing oversight. Their talks with regulatory authorities are apparently going really well, which suggests more of a collaborative approach, not fighting against them. Zoox sees this as a huge transformation in transportation, and they acknowledge it absolutely requires this close partnership with regulators to build trust and ensure safety.
And Amazon's role in all this. They bought Zoox a while back.
Right. Amazon's support is key. They've apparently been very supportive, asking good questions. It sounds like a full-on relationship now, 5 years in, even though this is obviously a hugely expensive R&D project.
Makes sense. So connecting this to the bigger picture then, how does Zoox view the competition? I mean, you've got Waymo out there, pretty established. Tesla's doing its thing. There's a lot happening.
Yeah, it's definitely heating up. But Zoox's view seems to be that it's a huge market, plenty of room.
Yeah.
They genuinely seem to believe it's good to have multiple players, not a hostile stance at all. In fact, they even said they're super proud of Waymo, referred to Waymo's vehicles in the Bay Area as cute Casper ghosts.
Ah, cute Casper ghosts. Okay.
Yeah. So they're taking this the merrier approach. They seem to be deliberately avoiding criticizing competitors. I guess knowing that everyone's facing the same tough roads, the same evolving regulations. It's an interesting mindset, right? This sort of shared sense of pioneering a whole new industry. It suggests maybe the priority right now isn't grabbing market share, but just proving the technology itself works safely and reliably for everyone involved.
Okay, interesting dynamic. Let's unpack another fascinating trend now. Companies expanding way beyond what they started as. Klarna. Everyone knows them for buy now, pay later, right?
Yeah.
But now they're getting into mobile phone service. This seems like a massive leap on the surface. Why would a financial services company do that?
Yeah, it does seem like a jump, but their belief, their core idea, is that the future is a truly digital financial system, one that goes way beyond just payments, one that actually saves you time and money across your entire financial life. So by offering a mobile service that's on the AT&T network, $40 a month, they think they can bundle more value for their users. They have about 25 million active users in the U.S. The goal is to lower their users' overall monthly bills.
How does a phone plan do that exactly? Beyond just the plan cost itself.
Well, the bigger vision is to become this digital financial assistant. Imagine an app that could, like, wake you up in the morning, as they put it, and proactively suggest immediate savings, maybe on your mobile plan, maybe on your electricity bill, and not just point it out, but actually handle all the switching, all the paperwork for you with just a button.
Yeah.
They think this integrated approach will help drive down what they call excess profits in industries like utilities and banking, just by making it super easy for consumers to switch to better deals.
Wow. Okay. That's ambitious. Leveraging their financial data and user trust to become indispensable in your daily financial life.
Pretty much. That's the goal.
That vision of a proactive assistant is compelling. But wait, this raises a question about Klarna AI. Their CEO, he made some big headlines before, didn't he? Saying he could replace himself with AI and was all in on generative AI for customer service, implying, fewer human jobs. But it sounds like they've tweaked that message, partially changed their mind. What's the thinking now?
Yeah, that's a really interesting point. What seems fascinating now is how they frame it. They now emphasize using AI primarily to take away the administrative burdens. Think about it. Like, similar to how AI could free up doctors and nurses from endless paperwork, they see AI freeing up human customer service reps from answering the same simple, repetitive questions over and over.
Okay, so AI handles the easy stuff.
Right. And that, they argue, allows the human reps to spend more time on what they're calling human connection. The complex problems, the empathetic conversations, the nuanced situations where AI still really struggles. They believe this human element actually rises in the world of AI. It becomes more valuable precisely because it's what AI can't easily replicate. So their firm belief now is that people should always have the option to speak to a human for those critical, complex interactions. AI handles the mundane. It feels like a shift, yeah, from AI purely replacing jobs to AI augmenting humans and kind of reprioritizing the value of that human touch.
That makes more sense, I suppose. So connecting this Klarna move,
Hmm.
what does it all mean for that bigger idea, the everything app? One single system to handle all your needs. Companies like X, formerly Twitter, or Uber seem to aspire to that too. Klarna's move feels like it leans into that vision, right?
It does lean that way, and that's arguably the million-dollar question floating around Silicon Valley right now, isn't it? Will there really be one ring to forge them all, one app to rule everything? Honestly, nobody truly knows. Klarna's CEO actually recalled how way back in 2007, everyone thought Facebook was going to be where all of internet happened. Remember that? But that single monolithic vision, it never quite materialized that way. The internet stayed fragmented, specialized. So he seems to lean towards the camp that thinks there will likely be a few really smart assistants that people trust for different specific areas.
Like one for finance, maybe one for travel.
Exactly. Maybe one for communication. The core insight, I think, is that the Everything app isn't just a technical challenge. It's a massive user experience challenge, and maybe even more, a trust challenge. Convenience is great, sure, but users often prefer specialized tools for really critical things like managing their money or their health. There might be a natural resistance to putting all your eggs in one giant basket, as
Right.
a single point of failure, maybe too much data in one place. So it's finding that really delicate balance between integrated convenience and specialized trust.
Right, that makes a lot of sense. Okay, let's transition then from these ambitious company strategies to the regulatory environment that kind of shapes everything they do. Let's start with a pretty significant development in the crypto world. The Senate passing what's been called the Genius Act, the big stablecoin bill. What makes this one so pivotal?
Yeah, this bill is seen as incredibly helpful by many in the industry because it finally provides some much-needed regulatory clarity and stability. That's something the crypto world has been, well, desperately asking for. It's specifically designed to bring the stablecoin industry, which is currently largely based offshore, bring it onshore. That means oversight for those cryptocurrencies pegged to currencies like the US dollar will now fall directly under US financial regulation.
Okay, and what does it actually do?
Well, crucially, it enhances consumer protection. It mandates things like quarterly audits and ensures that all these stablecoins maintain strict one-to-one reserves in US dollars held in secure US bank accounts. No more guessing if the backing is really there. This kind of stability, this clear framework. Some analysts think it could help the stablecoin market swell massively, from maybe $250 billion now to potentially trillions of dollars by 2030. Which, interestingly, could also increase international demand for the US dollar itself and create potentially trillions of dollars of new demand for US treasuries if those reserves are held there. And longer term, it positions blockchain technology as potentially a faster, more efficient payment system, but one based on the dollar, leveraging tech for continued US financial leadership globally.
So, wow, that sounds like a pretty significant shift towards embracing crypto, or at least parts of it, rather than just, policing it. What does this signal about the Trump administration's broader approach to crypto?
It seems to fit, yeah. The administration has quite explicitly aimed to replace what they characterize as the previous approach of regulation through prosecution with this focus on regulatory clarity. The stated goal is to make the U.S. a, quote, crypto capital. They've even gone so far as to designate Bitcoin as a strategic reserve asset. And they're actively working, they say, to eliminate regulations they see as part of a war on crypto. The core belief driving this seems to be that enshrining clear rules in actual law provides the long-term stability and predictability that founders, innovators, and investors need. That stability, the argument goes, is what's required to really unlock the economic potential of digital assets within the U.S. instead of inadvertently pushing all that innovation offshore.
Okay, a very different tone there. All right, next up, a story that just keeps going, doesn't it? The future of TikTok in the U.S. We keep seeing deadlines, extensions. What's the latest? And what are the really deep issues still at play here?
Yeah, feels like Groundhog Day sometimes with this one. We've now seen a third extension on the seller be banned deadline, and the feeling from some observers is that this might actually be the last extension. Time might be running out. The core concern, as you know, hasn't changed. It revolves around national security specifically, data privacy, and the potential for the Chinese government to access U.S. user data or influence the content algorithm. Now, one of the key bidders who's emerged is Frank McCourt, with his initiative called Project Liberty. And he's offering a really distinct, maybe even groundbreaking approach.
How so? What's different about his bid?
Well, his bid is reportedly the only one that proposes to completely disentangle from Chinese technology. He's explicitly saying they are not looking to use the existing Chinese algorithm or, as he puts it, exploit user data. Instead, the plan is to move the entire U.S. user base onto a totally new, clean, made-in-America stack. And here's the really radical part. A system where individuals could not only give permission for how their data is used, but could even potentially get paid for it. McCourt has been very vocal, believing the current internet model, these huge centralized platforms that monetize by exploiting user data, is fundamentally exploitive and predatory and ultimately not sustainable. So he's pitching a very different vision for social media.
That is, yeah, that's a fascinating, almost idealistic vision for the internet, a total rebuild.
Yeah.
But let's connect this to the reality. What are the actual chances of any deal happening, especially given China's historical stance on protecting its core technology, like that algorithm?
That's the huge question mark, isn't it? There's still significant uncertainty. Most analysts believe China is highly unlikely to just let go of the core algorithm or the intellectual property behind TikTok. It's seen as a major strategic national asset for them. So any deal, as McCourt himself highlights, would almost have to involve disentangling completely from that core Chinese tech, building something new. If no such deal can be struck, then a complete shutdown of TikTok in the U.S. seems like the only other option left on the table under the current law, which would obviously be massive for its millions of users and creators. McCourt, with Project Liberty, he's essentially trying to build momentum for an alternative internet framework, one based on user agency, data respect, decentralization. Whether that kind of vision can actually prevail against these huge, entrenched interests and complex geopolitical realities, well, that remains to be seen. It's a long shot, maybe, but a really interesting one.
Definitely one to watch. Okay, finally, let's talk about something foundational that underpins so much of this tech race. The global competition for AI chips. This isn't just about who builds the coolest gadget.
Yeah.
It's really about geopolitical power, isn't it?
Absolutely. It's fundamental. And what's fascinating here is a specific critique that's emerged regarding the Biden diffusion rule. That's one of the key AI chip export controls the U.S. has put in place. Some critics are describing it as overly burdensome and maybe not really thought through.
What's the specific criticism?
The core argument is that the rule, as written, essentially requires a license for almost every GPU sale worldwide. Not just the highest-end chips, and not just those going to China or other countries of concern, but even lower-end chips sold anywhere. This broad scope, they argue, creates just immense administrative overhead for U.S. companies. It potentially stifles international sales, even to close allies. And paradoxically, it might even incentivize other nations to double down on developing their own chip industries, independent of the U.S. supply chain. So the argument boils down to, it might have shot our technology industry in the foot by being too broad, impeding U.S. semiconductor and data center businesses globally and potentially hindering overall U.S. market share worldwide in the long run. It highlights that really delicate balancing act between national security goals and economic competitiveness.
Okay, so if the U.S. rules are seen as potentially too restrictive, even hurting U.S. companies, what does this mean for China's ability to compete, especially companies like Huawei? And what are the longer-term implications for who leads in AI globally?
Well, right now, China is definitely supply constrained because of these restrictions. They can't easily get the most advanced chips. However, they've proven incredibly adept over the years at working around restrictions and boosting their own domestic innovation. We're already seeing Chinese AI models that are now only maybe months behind the leading U.S. models in terms of capability. And in chip design, China is maybe only 1.5 to 2 years behind the U.S. now. The gap is closing. Huawei, in particular, is moving incredibly fast to catch up in chip manufacturing. So there's a real concern that if the U.S. is overly restrictive with its own sales, especially to allies, Huawei could potentially step into that vacuum and start dominating global markets where the U.S. currently has a strong advantage. The challenge, then, is this dual objective. How do you effectively prevent the absolute leading-edge chips from going to China for military use, while also ensuring the United States remains the global standard, the partner of choice, for everyone else? It's a really complex strategic game. Over-restriction in one area could unintentionally accelerate competition and lead to a loss of influence elsewhere.
Wow. Okay, what a journey through the real cutting edge of tech today. We've seen how this intense quest for AI talent is reshaping huge corporate strategies,
Yeah.
how driverless vehicles are, like really inching closer to being part of our daily lives, and how these digital financial platforms are completely rethinking their role, wanting to be central to your everyday finances.
Yeah, and if you connect all those dots, if you look at the bigger picture, It really highlights a profound shift happening across the whole tech ecosystem, doesn't it? The actual underlying infrastructure of the internet, the global balance of power and who leads AI development, the regulatory frameworks trying to keep up. It's all in flux,
Yeah.
constantly changing. We're really witnessing a race, not just for, technological superiority, but maybe for the very principles that are going to govern our digital lives going forward.
That is definitely something to ponder. As technology keeps weaving itself deeper and deeper into the fabric of our lives, how might all these individual battles for talent, for market share, for regulatory approaches, how might they ultimately reshape our digital world and maybe even the global balance of power in ways we can barely even imagine today? It's definitely a future we're all building together right now, whether we fully realize it or not. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. We really hope these insights help you navigate this ever-evolving world of technology with, hopefully, a clearer and more informed perspective.